You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior filling in for Thomas Mott because we have some breaking news to get to here on a Saturday as the Philadelphia Eagles and starting left tackle Jordan Mailata have agreed to a contract extension. Before we break all of this down, Philly, get into the comment section right now and let me know your one-word reaction to Mailata inking this deal. Adam Caplan, first on the news. He's always been closely tied to the Philadelphia Eagles organization, reporting that the Eagles and Mailata have agreed to a 4-year, $64 million contract extension with upsides of $80 million, $40.85 million guaranteed. Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, who also has a lot of ties to the Eagles organization, worked in Philadelphia for a long time for WIP, adding for Mailata, it's a huge payday before his first year as an unquestioned starter for the Eagles. It's buying low for a guy who would command even more if he plays as well as they expect. A lot of people watching right now are probably saying, Jordan Mailata, $64 million, that's way too much money for a guy who is somewhat unproven. I'm actually going to take the other side. I think Mailata getting around $16 million in average annual value could end up being a massive steal if he ends up fulfilling his potential, because throughout his short NFL career, he has shown flashes of being a dominant left tackle in the pass game as well as in the run game, and he has an incredible story which we'll get to here in just a bit. Let's first take a look at the highest paid tackles across the National Football League in terms of average annual value. Trent Williams of the 49ers, he's making $23 million per year after the deal that he signed in NFL free agency back a few months ago. David Bakhtiari of the Green Bay Packers, right behind him at $23 million as well. Laramie Tunsil is making $22 million. Ronnie Stanley of the Baltimore Ravens making $19.75. Ryan Ramczyk signed an extension with the New Orleans Saints a couple months ago, due $19.2 million per year. Lane Johnson is making $17 million in average annual value. And on this new contract, Jordan Mailata is now the 13th highest paid tackle across the National Football League. I think it's a bargain if he plays well when you compare $16 million per season with Trent Williams, Bakhtiari, Laramie Tunsil, all of those guys making north of 20, and then the Ronnie Stanleys, Ryan Ramczyks of the world making in the neighborhood of 19, and Lane Johnson making $17 million. I talked about Mailata's fascinating story. It really is one of the most incredible stories that we've ever seen in the course of NFL history. Mailata comes from Australia. He was a former rugby player, got in touch with the NFL as part of the International Pathway program because the NFL has been trying to groom more international prospects. There's been a main key focus there over the last several years of the league trying to do that. And prior to Mailata getting drafted by Philly, he had never picked up a football before he came to the United States to take part in Eagles training camp. He got drafted in the 7th round, 233rd overall back in 2018. And only 3 short years later, now Jordan Mailata is a top 15 highest paid tackle across the NFL. A few more things I want to get to on today's show. I think Mailata has shown that he has a ton of ability. The athleticism has always been there. His highlights as a rugby player down under in Australia are incredible, like stuff of legends. You saw this massive dude just running over cats, looking like a professional playing against high school people. That was the discrepancy in the size between Mailata, who was running quick with the football, just truck sticking cats, compared to the other guys that he was playing with. And I think the Eagles are giving Mailata this contract because of what they've seen the last couple of years, the growth that they've seen unfold, the improvements that he's made, which has had a lot of hard work involved, because you don't go from never picking up a football a few short years ago to becoming one of the more dominant forces at the left tackle position across the National Football League and locking down a contract worth around $16 million. So the Eagles have seen this hard work pay off. They've seen all of this hard work kind of come to fruition. They see the ability and the upside. And if he's only making $16 million per season and he ends up being one of the best tackles in the NFL, as I mentioned, that contract could be a bargain. He played well last year, I thought. And if you watch like Brian Baldinger's Baldy's breakdowns, the Mondays after Sunday games, or even on Sunday nights, he's done a bunch of deep dives into Mailata's game and how he's been able to really hone in on his craft at the left tackle spot. The mechanics are pretty good. A big part of that is Jeff Stoutland, who continues to be one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. He has really been able to develop Mailata at an insane rate, and Mailata has just shown a lot of flashes of physical dominance. Here's also why I like this contract. Buying low in hopes that you get him at a bargain basement price. Mailata's only 24 years old, which is wild because he's already been in the league for 3 years, getting drafted in 2018. So he is still a relatively young player. If I do have any concerns about this deal, it's that Mailata, especially to start his NFL career, did run into some injury issues at his size of like 6'7", 330, 340 pounds. He's dealt with some back injuries, so I do have some concerns there. But if you think about it, he wasn't playing at that playing weight while he was playing rugby. So in a compressed amount of time, Mailata had to put on so much weight to actually play offensive line in the NFL. I think that might have contributed to some of those back issues. But the athleticism has always really flashed. Going back to his rugby days when he was running these quick 40s and looked elusive with the ball in his hands, that has certainly translated to him becoming a very good football player. And that rugby mentality, you can see it in Mailata's play because he can be nasty in the run game with that just physical presence, throwing dudes and really just being a physical blocker. But in the pass game, his quick feet, because of the rugby past and the rugby history, has boded well for him really translating that game to becoming a pretty solid left tackle at this point and this juncture of his career. His little kick step off the line once the ball is snapped has been good since he came into the league. So this goes back to why this has been one of the more fascinating stories that we've ever seen in the course of NFL history, because the development and the jump and his improvements have taken place so quickly in a short amount of time. He's just a nasty mauler in the run game and the pass game, and those rugby highlights were just exceptional. That's why he was kind of made a legendary figure after he was drafted in the 7th round back in 2018, because a lot of Eagles fans are saying, yo, if this guy can show glimpses of this athleticism and make the transition from rugby player to football player, everything is there for him to flourish, succeed, and thrive. One of the big notes that we have to get to here, what does this mean for Andre Dillard, who was the first-round pick in 2019 out of Washington State? At the time, that pick looked to be a steal. Hasn't ended up working out well for the Eagles or Andre Dillard, because up to this point, Andre Dillard has been a bust. So I'm not sure what this means for Dillard. This could mean a move to guard. He has the size to certainly play there. He could also get traded if the Eagles try to get some semblance of value back for a former first-round pick who still has a little bit of upside but hasn't gotten off to the greatest start in his NFL career. Or maybe this just means that Andre Dillard isn't that good, because even though Mailata wasn't named the starter until recently, he had been thoroughly outplaying Andre Dillard in training camp. And Dillard had a better training camp this year than he had last year when his season was cut short due to that torn biceps. But it really wasn't even a competition. It was Mailata's job really from the jump. He went out there and he earned it. So maybe Dillard moves to guard. Maybe they try to trade him. Maybe Dillard just isn't good. I think think that's the indication maybe so far. He certainly hasn't lived up to those expectations of being that first-round pick. Maybe you try to get rid of him to get some value back, or maybe he's a quality backup left tackle. But this contract extension speaks more to what Mailata has become, what he's done, as compared to what Dillard hasn't. And it's honestly a combination of both. Also, this just goes to show you that Howie Roseman has always valued and will always invest in the offensive line. I understand the trepidation here from Eagles fans who are saying this is way too much money for a guy who's still somewhat raw. I'm taking the opposite stance. Of course, Mailata is somewhat raw as compared to other offensive linemen because he's only been in the league since 2018 and never picked up a damn football prior to coming to the United States, but the development has been fast-tracked. He's come along quicker than anybody had anticipated, and the Eagles see all of the potential here. And once again, if you're paying one of the best left tackles over the next couple of years $16 million in average annual value, that ends up being a bargain as compared to guys like Trent Williams. He's in his early 30s making $22-23 million over the next couple of years, and the salary cap is going to continue to increase. The NFL is going to continue to reel in money. There's a new television deal coming as well, which is going to put that salary cap on an uptick. So contracts are going to continue to increase over time, which goes to show you that Mailata, if he ends up being one of the better, more physical tackles for the Philadelphia Eagles over the next couple of years, this could end up being a true steal. And of course, you do have to factor in that if he does exceed expectations, maybe there's a contract maneuver or a contract restructure at some point down the road. All right, this has been a lot of fun. I grew up in Philly, so to talk some Eagles football today has been a blast. Help me out, Eagles fans. Get into the comment section once more. Grade this contract extension for Jordan Mailata for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Get those votes in the comment section. Eagles kicking off the 2021 NFL season tomorrow against the Atlanta Falcons. I really like Philadelphia as 3-point underdogs. Thomas Mott will have all of the coverage for your Eagles after the game and next week. Another reminder to hit that red subscribe button, because when breaking news happens, we have you covered with a video. My name is Chase Sr. with Chat Sports. This has been Philadelphia Eagles Now. Jordan Mailata and the Birds agreeing to a contract extension.